All right. Okay, so we're going to push on through. This is the afternoon session, and slideshow. So something is here on the call. So we're going to go over a couple of topics. I'm going to be presenting Dr. Jordan, and then I'll also present it. So the first thing I just want to discuss, kind of not in huge detail, although we can get into it if we want, is the data path plugin. So pray the CFP has been approved, and I think the ER is up. So just a brief recap. Basically, data path plugins is a way to load additional programs to interact with the Cilium eBPF, basically in front of and behind. And essentially, what Jordan has done is created this like gRPC interface to kind of interact with the various plugins. And I think if you want more detail, it's all up in the CFP. But the kind of bottom line is that the plugins CFP is merged and then the PR is up. So apparently Jordan he's been working on it for the past few months, and I think it's like ready to people kick the tires. So I think in terms of next steps, so definitely we need better e-lead coverage of the plugins. And then I think he's hit some limitations on tail call instrumentation. So he's been trying to find some alternatives there. And then he's looking at potentially even future enhancements, which is like, can you have a plugin instrument eBPF helpers or K-funcs? And then also in terms of like map replacements, like telling Cilium how to deal with the data structures, not just the code. So I don't know, have you guys taken a look at that at all? It's kind of a cool thing because it
is because it might help us because we are actually working Cilium or inserting our own tail calls,
exactly.
jumping from instead of like using standard tail call, what Cilium does, we jump our part, and if we decide to, we jump back to where we initially shipped it out. It could help us a lot as well. We should take a look at it.
Yeah, please. Like, I think this is the time to give like tons of feedback. Like, hey, is it working? Not working? I'm like shaking it right now. I think the other thing in terms of next steps was like, I think we were looking at like if you eliminated tail calls with the BPF to BPF function calls instead, there could be easy ways to like replace functions. That's like very future.
So decent chunk of work.
Yes. So the tail call elimination has to happen before that. Any comments on that? Oh, okay. So there's this other thing. So I think there is an issue with sort of passing kind of constants to the plugin, but there's no. What Jordan is looking at is using dpgen, and he's getting some things that needs to be worked out. Essentially, using the dpgen to generate photodevelop IPL that then co-structs. And anyways, this will be a discussion, I think, on his PR to see what to do here. Oh, there's like a demo inside here. There's also typing the password here. So I think this demo basically deploys a data path plugin and then uninstalls it as well. Demonstrates installing it and then having all the traces come out. And then install it. Anyways, I'd say give it a look, give it feedback. Right, scaling. So Satney, want to talk through these?
Sure. So I take a look how current Cilium implements the policy engine, and this is the bottlenecks I see with the current implementation. I think biggest one is that identity allocator. So in Google. So even the very lower scale, we see a ton of customers have the problems that they exhausted the identities. And I see here a few problems. First of all, they don't understand what labels are, what identities. And I also noticed that some of the customers using some specific deployment tools, and these tools, as I understand, they are adding these tools adding some labels. So even though, for example, like you see that they have one or two policies and they target few labels, but they somehow exhausted already 64K. And yeah, I think it's one of the big problem, and we need to somehow address it because, at least in Google point of view, like Google wants to support lot of pods, lot of nodes, and somehow it's not great to tell the people that, oh, you can have 300K pods and you can have only 64K unique labels. Yeah. And second one is that, so I think we can go the next slides and I can talk.
Okay, maybe can I have a question? So does it not help if you tell your users, yes, you need to like limit what the identity relevant labels are?
I think at some level, like,
Because we had to do that.
so for users who have a decent understanding and engage with Cilium itself, that can work, right? But I think there's a large number of users out there. Maybe Cilium just comes platform or whatever else. And I think just saying, hey, here's this obscure detail deep in the thing. Go and like look up and figure this thing way is like not a very user friendly.
They just want to use labels.
So
The
I
question
do
is
think,
like, how do you improve
Yeah.
the experience?
in my mind, it's like, do we need to push that into upstream Kubernetes as a concept? To make it
That's an interesting
more-
angle as well. Like there's the
more
whole discussion
visible.
about like should service accounts be a
Yeah.
boundary? Like that.
And the other one is like, you have that, and then you have just the people who blindly blunder into it. And then you have the people who are like these central ops teams, like try to get their users to quote unquote the right thing, but they don't fully have any. So I think you see like all the range, it's just like, well, yeah, my user do crazy stuff, and that's like, they can't like necessarily like force it. So it's right now it's like, yes, probably there is a solution with the security labels filtering, but it's just not very well known, and sometimes people don't have control to enforce it.
In terms of the design and how to be optimal about sharing this information, like, the idea is like any given security identity should be some box around some state of workload that
Yes.
has a different posture with respect to any other.
Yeah,
And if you can make those groupings relatively large, and which is probably more common, like let's say you deploy 10, well, I guess like how many deployments do you have? Maybe is the question. Like that would be a super micro zero trust
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
approach
yeah.
to say each individual deployment has a different security posture. But that's a relatively complicated way to do it. Much simpler would be like if you tie it directly to the service account namespace,
Right.
and then it's the question, how many of those would you have? And then from a Cilium perspective, how do we tie those together with the user experience?
Yeah.
Like if we were opinionated and we just did it has to be a namespace, then I think we would eliminate a lot of these.
Yes. Yes.
Maybe I don't know if it's all, but like
Yeah. So I do think putting my Kubernetes hat on, it's like, yeah, we should upstream kind of have that. Just seems like right now the fact that any label can kind of get stuck into security relevance, like
it's kind of baked into the neighbor policy APIs.
yes, yeah.
It is possible to match on any arbitrary label. It's literally unbounded. Depends on how many keys.
Yeah, so the labels are used for way too many purposes. Like people just
Random hashes
just stick
and,
with that stuff on there.
which is fine. Like it's just
Yeah.
not security relevant.
Sunday, do you want me to go to next slide?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Okay.
because I have more details in separate.
Oh,
Yeah, like as I said, This is kind of problem, and we see in Google like very lower level. And as we want to support very higher scale, it will getting more often. And really, like as I said, people. I don't know. Sometimes it helps to give them some manuals of what labels are and how what Cilium identities is and how it use labels. But as I understand, most difficult thing non like I don't know tech savvy people is that to understand that um yes they're using some network policy for some labels, but still when they create some pods with random um labels, it still exhausts the number of identities. So, and then suddenly, oh, we cannot schedule a new pods because suddenly it's not able to allocate new identities. And also, here I see, so in GKE, as I understand, we don't use cluster mesh. And in the code, I see that cluster mesh part of this identity, where is identity set, can somehow steal the bits from the identity space, but not the otherwise. Why is that? Can we consider the way that if someone does not use the cluster mesh, we can steal the bits from the cluster mesh part?
Like, I kind of want to like return to the kind of previous discussion. Like, are you saying that in a single environment, you want to express relationships between 65,000 different applications that somehow have different security posture, each from one another? Because like pods is not the right scale parameter to think about here. Because like
Yeah, again, like I have seen ton of customer issues exhausting the
but
identities.
yeah, I understand that, right? But like it doesn't necessarily say that the solution is to change like how we're expressing this in the HTTP. Like there's a range of possible.
Yes, but like what I'm saying is that like saying when that we're gonna support like I don't know like 400K, 500K or something pods, and then say that you can have only unique 64K labels. If I were user and if I wanted to have that many pods, I would also think that I can treat them as a separately.
Do you want to
I,
write?
I mean, I doubt there are a lot of companies who want to have that many network policies. Maybe I don't know, but in theory, this is kind of problem.
So I think there was that, wasn't that a proposal to basically to like dynamically compute the security development label by looking at the network policy objects, and then this resulted in a problem, right? That we discussed, I think, like.
Yeah. So yeah.
Because like technically speaking, that is the only ones that you should.
Yes. Right. But then every time you churn network policy, potentially churn higher.
I do wonder though, is there like some way to know that? Like, let's assume that 64K plus doesn't make them, right? But we'll have some way smaller set of relevant network policy. Like, is there a way that somehow
Yeah,
let's say you give it like a
some
10x
overseer that figures out,
Yeah.
I'm in this state right now, I'm going to need this many identities. How do I sort of migrate things over
Well,
such that I can get?
Yeah, like imagine you have like a 10x, like you just be like, I'm willing to facilitate migrations and all this stuff. To consume like 10x and space and somehow like move the identities to reduce that term.
I think that's interesting.
Yeah, like because it seems like it's like it can be dynamic, but we know if it's dynamic, like super dynamic, and you get all these rollout issues like basically it's not working. It's like fine, don't go to that extreme. Go somewhere in the middle, but it would conceivably still fit the.
Yeah, that's definitely an option. I think the dynamic aspect is also interesting. The question is like when you're writing these network policies, is the kind of posture of those applications like highly dynamic? Like, what is it that's actually changing about how you're trying to like, lock down the protocol access these locations to these locations? Like, is the fundamental constraint on the network policy there actually dynamic? You're trying to do it like, I don't know, at 8 a.m. in the morning and 8 p.m. in the afternoon, and like it always happens in that way? Or is it like more like, oh, it's GDPR compliant, you know, or like, you know, you can only access the prod from the prod, and you know, those kinds of things are more static inherently.
Yeah, I think, I mean,
so I mean, you can solve the hard, you know,
Yeah.
dynamic problem. I guess I'm saying like, if like, is that the problem? I guess it's like, are we expressing the network policy in
but
a highly dynamic
yeah,
way
so
all
like,
the time?
yeah, it would be an interesting study to look at the network policy to see like, because we know the network policy itself is static, and it's really about like adding more policies probably. Like the rate of change is
Like,
small.
like pod turn high, right? But then
Yeah,
most of it is the same applications or a new version of the application that shouldn't factor in if this is ideally, right?
yeah, like
But then what
I-
they're saying is like the network policy, which
right, like imagine like the
migrate it
label set to identity map. You basically compute that whole thing, and then you just look at computing the deltas, and like presumably the deltas could be very small. Right, like that's something that I think would be interesting to look at.
I did want to touch on, because you asked a specific question earlier about the usage of the identity. So you got like a 24-bit,
Yeah.
mainly focused on 24-bit. Technically, it's a 32-bit within a single node, and we do use a few extra bit only within the local node. But generally, we try to stick the identity within 24 bits, because then it fits within a VXLAN DNI header, transfer it between nodes for that particular deployment.
Right.
Then we break that down. We have an option to choose how many bits are actually assigned for cluster ID versus the rest. And I
Yeah.
think you really
Yeah, and as I see, like if someone wants to have in cluster mesh more than, I think by default 256, but if they want to have more, so it can still bit from this identity part, so, and not the otherwise.
it's like a trade-off. You can I think there's not really two we've tried. There's like 255 clusters, and each one has 5.
Yeah, and my question is like, if someone does not want to use cluster mesh at all, why not let them to use these cluster mesh bits?
I think the concern I was actually related to maybe 1 year ago. There's a lot of discussion about people setting up different clusters and later on wanting to adopt cluster mesh. And then it has problems with conflicting. It's like if you can lock down that architecture right now forever, and they're never going to want to use that stuff, which admittedly maybe for
Yeah, I think
can.
like that's what Kanye is talking about.
Then that's one thing. But I think in the rest of the Cilium community, I think we find a lot of people may need to have that. And like, how do we?
Also, like,
But should it be attunable? It sounds like it's not. You can't go get it way today.
I think the other things like I just think we're trying to solve the problem.
Yeah,
I think maybe I'm wrong. Happy to be proved wrong, but like 65K unique apps and unique relationships between.
I mean, in theory, I can imagine that some customers maybe need that. But again, I don't know. Like, as I said, like if I were a customer and I need to have, I don't know, so many pods, I would probably think in my mind that I can treat them as a separately. So if I want to have these different workloads, that many different workloads, I need to somehow address that. Like, but yeah, in practice, I doubt maybe a lot of companies need that. But yeah.
I mean, it's strange that he wouldn't run into like other problems. Yeah, I mean, if you have that many unique identities, now imagine that each. It's not always like single pod, right? You have like hundreds of replicas of the same one, so you have like 4K times 100, let's say, or even 50, like huge. It's strange that the Kubernetes API server would handle that amount.
you're talking about network policy object. Well, that's actually, I mean, part of the work is actually making Kubernetes they go that high. But, yeah. Sunday, do you want to talk about the IP cache?
Yeah, so second part is that I see that it's capped like 512K. And again, like if we get this scenario that like someone has 300K pods and they want to use the dual stack, so it's already exhausts the space. And again, like what I see that this is the problems we can get in very higher scale, but I think Google wants to go that way, so we need to somehow address that. So
Is that just a concept of 512 or it's like
Yeah, I think it is. And to be honest, I'm not sure whether we didn't.
should this just be configurable somehow and just like find you more memory? Is
Yeah,
there
I mean, I think it
something
already is configurable. I feel like there's some truth to like there is a harder limit there somewhere. Like I
Yeah.
guess you probably should try to change that number.
yeah, so my question is more like, is it like some hard, maximum we can get? Like maybe there is some kernel restrictions or something, because I don't know.
I feel like this has come up in the past and the limit was harder than I expected it to be, but I don't remember why that's the number.
Sunday, have you tried it out? Just search and replace?
No, I did not, because as I understand, you can change and build a new image, and probably it will build up. But my question is like, maybe someone knows, like it's maybe hard limit, or there is. I assume that when it was designed, like this is huge number, and we did not think that like we ever go that's much high scale, but still, yeah.
I think whoever has that context is not instructed.
Yeah, could be.
Like I would say like that one feels like potentially a simpler. Like this just feels like a memory.
Yeah, we file an issue with that. Yeah, then we can. Yeah, Sunday, maybe let's file an issue for that, and then we could.
That one seems a lot easier.
Sure.
Just one on kind of comments on it.
Yeah, so then we can go next slide then. Yeah, so I see that there is this mutex, and yeah, it works that way, and in very high scale, yeah, it's kind of getting slower and slower. If I did not miss something, it works that way. So
Do you have a test that can demonstrate this?
I mean, I cannot, like, because it's like very high scale, but like even very small scale, you can notice that. So I made some tests, like because I my tests done in kind, and in kind does not support the high scale. And again, to run this this kind of testing very high scale, first of all in Google, like we need to get the resource, and to get the time for that resource it takes time. But yeah, like it's not that hard to imagine how it's done, and when you get very high scale you get the issues. So yeah,
Okay.
this is how it's done. And yeah, same with this endpoint regeneration, and I think it's noticeable. I think other users other than Google too. So yeah, I'm not saying that what it's done is bad, but like in very high scale, it's very noticeable.
Yeah, I'd say this is one where we've put a lot of work into optimizing more like pod churn or static policy than we have put work into.
Yeah, and what I see, for example, I don't know if I can say the customer name, but I don't know, probably not. But what I noticed, yeah, they have really high churn. Like I don't know, like I don't know what they're doing exactly, but they killing pods like super quickly and making new pods super quickly. and yeah, they get these problems all the time.
Right, but like this first one, that should not be related at all. Right?
Yeah, second one.
The second one, complete. Okay, yes.
So I think like, Satnam, the first one, I think we probably could demonstrate some sort of benchmark, right? And how it behaves. And
Yeah, but like
wonder
it's
like, if not just, so yes, you can have an end-to-end test with like 20K nodes, but maybe just with the policy stack, and just wiring it up, and you could demonstrate.
Like how fast do you ingest?
Like just maybe like
yeah,
a-
yes, it could be done. But again, like if you check how this mutex and this thing is used, like it used every lot of places, so it gets slower in high scale.
Yep. It's hard to change that. Like I definitely welcome some like any help, I guess, in this area, right? So like learn more.
Yeah.
Where other, I mean, I guess the bottom line is like it's the global mutex that's limiting, but
So I think like, for me, it would be good to have that unit test level benchmark, because even if, for example, we say we propose a fix, like how would you know that the fix actually worked well without that test? And then regarding the compilation log, is there anything upcoming that we kind of?
yeah, so this is kind of a very different one. I think this is more tied into the like claim-free kind of stuff.
I see. Would claim-free fix it?
So like we have this compilation look, and that's fine. But like, I mean, on average, what I would expect today is on startup, Cilium compiles a template eBPF program.
Yeah.
And then you're just taking that binary, you're substituting
Right.
parameters, and then you pass things down to kernel. And the kernel has a single global lock for loading the program.
Right.
And that, I think, is actually the majority of the time spent. So like, regardless of what we do in Cilium, it's like there are things we can optimize, maybe. I mean, we already did a lot of optimization with compilation log. But like, unless we start to break that down and like load smaller programs and reboot those programs.
Yeah,
I don't know if there's like a Cilium change. I mean, the Cilium changes to use data
Yeah.
eBPF infrastructure in the kernel, which is why I mentioned it.
Yeah. But Sunday, to understand this, like the full rebuild cause a compilation, because isn't it just a map? Or no?
Yeah, so like if you're seeing the compilation log run beyond the first startup Cilium, that's interesting. Like everything after that should be parameterized to prevent compilation. I wouldn't expect that to be the bottleneck. So if it is, then that's great. Like submit the data, let's figure out why that is. If not, maybe we need to look.
So for example, like few customers, I definitely noticed that. I cannot prove that that was the reason. This is the bottlenecks, what I just started taking a look how it works, and this is what I see. It's get complicated and bottleneck at this scale, and I think it's definitely like that. And as I
What matrix? Like, what is the exact report? Do you know, or like, is it like the regeneration? Was it eBPF regeneration time?
I definitely regeneration time, definitely. Like, for example, I remember that we have this log. I think Cilium has this log like regeneration all endpoints or something, and yeah, it takes a lot of time for some customers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could provide a little bit of context there. Like early on, we created this concept regenerate, which was more or less recalculate all possible state for any change that happens in the endpoint. So like you might talk about it in context of a particular endpoint or pod, in which case we'd say you regenerate that, and it's any state that needs to change, you calculate that. Over the last 8 years or so, we've optimized a whole bunch of that stuff. So when we talk about regenerate, we kind of say, well, it's whatever is needed, but there are a lot of shortcuts that come. different pieces out. And so you may see regeneration time takes a long time, but then, for instance, maybe compilation log, like I don't know if we grab that only when compiling or if we grab it while loading the kernel as well. Like how we actually slice out that overall regeneration time and measure different portions of that would be really good to know.
Yeah, Sunday, like, I think, given we have seen this in production, like maybe we could have a reduction test case to like understand, kind of map to that customer use case. Because then we can figure out, you know, is it indeed the global compilation log or is it something else in regeneration that could be optimized?
Yeah.
Or,
What
Oh.
I'm saying that like this is the bottlenecks I see and I think it makes sense. But yeah, the concrete case why some of the customers it took a long time, but yeah, it needs to be investigated.
so from what I recall, the metric does break down some parameters, but I don't know if it's as granular as it needs to be for what the
Yeah.
current bottlenecks are. So you could also potentially extend that metric.
Yeah, that sounds like a
To just
interesting. Yeah.
have different stands or something to make sure that time.
Yeah, and the last slide. So I'm not the expert L7 proxy here because in GK we don't support Envoy at some point. But yeah, I see that this function creator update redirect is called the every filter. Yeah, so Envoy can take a lot of CPU time doing that. So, but again, I'm not the expert. This is what I see, and I think in scale it will be really, really problematic. But yeah,
I feel like there was some optimizations in this recently. Like I suspect we might not have done incremental CS updates at all. I don't remember if that's what we were trying to change recently. I don't know. Do you touch this, Marco, at all, or do you hear anything?
Marco,
Is it still-
Nowadays, we can work for a long time, but we have our own yes, and it helped us a lot with mental updates. So I imagine he done it as well, please. But yes, I didn't
So
see
there's
any
something
updates.
Joe, were you asking me?
Yeah, I was just curious if you had any context.
No,
experience.
zero context. I'm not the
Okay.
right Marco for that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No worries.
okay. Sunday.
yeah, and the next one, I think some people who were on the SIG policy meeting already talked about that. So I had the idea to make Arena shared map in the policy engine. And this is the way we can achieve the maximum space saving. Yeah, because of the duplication. And the outcome of the meeting on SIG policy was that maybe it's a good idea, but because of complication of the support of the Arena, and plus it's only supported 6.9 plus kernel, and Cilium needs to still release few releases in with older version of kernels. Maybe we can consider it in the future. But now I'm thinking what we can do if we can have the shared, not Arena, but LPM try. And I have few ideas, but unfortunately we cannot achieve the same pure deduplication as in Arena. But still, I think it will be beneficial for a lot of big customers. And maybe this week or next week of community meeting, I will share more details.
Cool. I think around arenas, like Joe, I don't know what the general sense is on how stable that is, how shaken out. It's really cool, but also it feels like you can blow yourself up.
Yeah, I agree with it's super cool. But again, like also information about it, it's like very few you can find, which is weird.
It's basically like a meta.
Yeah, and even when I was making my PLC, like there are some cases it's not documented at all. Otherwise, you have to try and figure out what to do, which is really annoying. Um, but yeah, idea is super cool. And again, this is the way we can achieve the maximum space saving we can get in policy engine. So
Yeah, like what is the experience with arenas? If you have
it's as I said, it's kind of pain in the ass because verifier does not like something. For example, like I mentioned in this discussion that so whole idea is having Arena that you can use the Arena pointers, but same time when I tried to cast the address to Arena pointer, verifier always throwing some error, and I did not make to work like to cast the in Arena pointer. So I don't know, maybe I was making some mistake, or that's why I still had to use some syscall. I don't remember what was the name, but yeah, even with that, like when I compared the throughput, etc., like it was very PR on the legacy mode. So yeah.
I think like anything in BPF, like if you have a model about how the kernel proof is going to be saved, which ideally you get like, actually knowing exactly how it works, which
yes,
if you wrote the feature, that's great. But like that basis of knowledge allows you to do like whatever it is that you know that the feature was designed for. That knowledge is probably not documented or
yeah,
well shared. I think Reese was probably introduced to LSFM a couple of years ago, so there might be a recording from that discussion. So that might help with the kind of the basic problems you're facing there. But one thing that's maybe also worth raising is I think Timo had shared pure use space Go arena discussions and like as I understand, like in Go, there's this proposal to allow memory allocation and like
that one I thought was more of like a language issue because as I remember reading through that one, it was like they had to basically like mess with every single Go interface. It just became very like this like sprawling thing.
so I don't remember exactly what the discussion was, but there's certainly an element of like who owns this memory and then like what is expected to clean it up.
That is also an issue.
Which we are talking about sharing the same thing like Go interaction and kernel space.
Yes, yeah,
So there's definitely some complications there.
yes.
So I think like yeah, I think we're probably all in similar like it seems interesting. We get this big blob of memory can do any arbitrary structure or whatever. But
it's my personal take on it is like, you know, it probably does make sense for someone to do something, but probably not policy.
Policy is probably not the thing I would
don't start with the policy. Yeah. But if like we could find some experimental thing to get some knowledge about how to deal with it, that would make sense.
But I think it's also like the sort of if we start with like, oh, can we use arenas for this? Like it's sort of like, oh, here's a particular implementation we could use, but what we should be talking about is like, here's the data format I'm expecting, here's like the accesses I'm expecting, here's this data structure that I want to express so that I can get either memory efficiency or processing efficiency. And then we can like start from that and then say, okay, well, do we have a structure that looks like that? And arenas certainly will allow us to build that, right? But then there's this whole other like mountain to climb to get there.
Yeah.
So then the question is like, exactly how far down this do we want to go for the current optimization we need, the current scale target?
Right.
So we don't get, bogged down too much, but we can make some progress. And in that we can also learn more about, like, we can share the knowledge about the policy agent. So I mean, like, if there was like here's why LPM try is the wrong way to express policy, that would be a really interesting discussion, right?
No, I think we cannot avoid LPM try because of these port ranges. So yeah, even in my PLC, I tried to avoid it, but unfortunately, I did not find any way to satisfy verifier and not use LPM try. So I think I saw that it was introduced to support the port ranges, and it is the correct way. So I don't think so there is better way we can achieve. So yeah.
But yeah, like if so, like, do we? Because like I guess the power of Arena is it's a block of memory. We can choose whatever.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But again, like in my PLC, like this is the duplication you can have. So you can have only once define the rules, and you have just reference counts, and yeah, you just say once, and it's quite good in some cases. But yeah, I totally agree. It's really complicated. And for example, so I think Timo commented me that I had to use the eBPF implementation. But for example, I definitely remember that I had to modify this Go wrapper eBPF some of the places because it's not quite fully supports the arena, especially when I needed to make it the persistent. It did not consider some of the headers or something, so I had to modify eBPF also.
Like the user space code library, right?
Yeah, eBPF library, yeah.
That's fine. Like, I don't know if others are using.
Yeah, no, my point is that like arena is super new and super complicated, and what I'm saying that maybe current eBPF library does not support the everything you can do with the arena. So yeah.
I mean, that one seems legitimate.
Yeah, like I think it's just a matter of people actually encountering it. Like Facebook doesn't use that
Go.
library because they don't use Go.
Yeah.
So basically, whoever's using Go.
Yeah, and as I said, like for example, like you need to have the fixed address. Otherwise, when you want to remap the same memory previously, you cannot do otherwise without fixed address. This is kind of like if you want to have arena, you need to have fixed address.
So I guess like thinking through like if someone sent a, for example, Sandy sent a patch to like add better arena support to the Go library, that makes sense.
I mean, I don't think it's like fundamentally the wrong thing, but there's a lot that goes into the implementation detail.
Yeah.
So like it's completely up to them.
Okay.
Timo and a couple others would be the best position to speak to that. Probably Dylan.
Yeah, I should have asked earlier, but can you explain how the arena policy map works? I mean, why? I mean, I understand that we have policy map per each endpoint. This will mean that what's common for all of these endpoints can be configured in this shared policy map. Can or cannot I mean, I understand that we potentially could have like a policy map attached to E0, right?
You could share the policy map without using Arena. That is technically a thing.
Yeah.
And
Because I
maybe
think
we
So
get
why is this better, or why?
A
I think
big
this is like because it's an arbitrary data structure, it's probably the most, so at least for now.
Yes, and like for I mean, how can you imagine the current like if you have this LPM try, how can you make the saving rules only once?
So like imagine like instead of using the PDF data structure,
Yeah, I mean, what I'm saying that with the arena we can achieve the true deduplication per rule set. and the pair rule too.
I mean, that by itself is kind of interesting. It suggests to me a memory optimization where typically in the data path within we'll put CPU optimization where we'll be like, if it's, if we're a little bit slower in updates and we have to do it 5 times, we'd rather do that than have it in the cloud.
Right.
Because like at some point, if you completely deduplicate, you probably have to have an iteration that allows you to
Yeah, like you
reach the same hash map interval.
But anyways, I think it sounds like let's look at the problem and try to tease out like it feels like there are incremental things that can be done that would kind of get quite a quick fit.
I think like 2 concrete things. Like one would be for the stuff like named port, where it's actually can potentially be per endpoint, as in security identity is not a defining parameter for it because multiple pods can have the same security identity, different named port. Like how you abstract that away would be one problem statement, and separately, how would you group by security identity that all pods on the same node with the same security identity, same quality map? That would be another problem. You couldn't solve that without solving the first problem. Like you'd have the wrong implementation behavior to solve pods to anymore. Those are 2 big chunks. I think there's still some additional ideas you have there, which I haven't covered with those 2, but like those 2 by themselves are also already a chunk of.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on. Okay, so just briefly tracing, I don't know if so basically, I think tracing went in the CFP, but I don't know, it was a couple months ago or something. But I think what was missing was like it basically said, if you injected packets like this, then it will dump it out. So there were some folks in our team looking at basically completing that on the other side, which is the flow jack. I don't think there's anything like shocking unique about this. Basically, it's just like how do you generate the packets that then plug into the kit on the other side. I think in their CFP, they'll probably go into discussion, they'll go into detail about kind of how they think it could be done, but let's take the feedback on it. Want to talk about scalability tests? The drive.
Yeah, so I just like yeah, so basically what I want to like do a discussion about how could we my team is responsible for the scalability. Basically what we are interested in, like we want to hear your feedback and also like how we can better support signal and we employ the like testing the Cilium in the as early as possible. So yeah, so I'll just start with like maybe explaining like
Yeah, so one of the things I think is that I think like there's right now tests of like, okay, let's test like 5,000 and whatever. Those are massively expensive. And I don't think like as a developer, you don't want to do this thing where like you have to run a 12-hour test just to figure out your one-line change, like shit did something, right? So like that's something that I think to get to these high-level scale, we probably need a better approach to get feedback from that without like just like doing literally like giant.
yeah, exactly. So as you can see, it's massively expensive. As we said, terrible feedback loop.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can see how it looks. The working with those tests are extremely hard, and then it's it can fail for whatever reason. It can be the infrastructure, it can be one single line of code, or it can be just random failure, and it's then it resets those hours. So my team is like this is like probably the main pain point, our main tool and main like thing that we are working on our scalability test. So we kind of started experimenting with like idea. Okay, so can we do this better? Like, is there a way to improve it? And this is kind of my idea. Now this is like very early and not well refined idea, but this is kind of like for the discussion and you can like a good approach or not. So I unfortunately didn't finish my demo. I started working on.
You should definitely demo it as a community once you get a workshop. Yeah.
And yeah, next time when we finally make it work. But I built this tool. I call it like this to work in a cube rewind, so you can get idea what it does. Basically, we record the state and all the changes, the specified resources. So in this case, for example, I'm interested in watching nodes, Cilium endpoints, node demo sets, and deployment. And then I record all the changes, and I can specify like is it for specific namespace or with specific label. It's all configurable. Then I create a test artifact. So I run those very expensive tests, like 15K, 30K, 65K, whatever. And then I get this test artifact that in theory I could share with community, and this tool could be used by anyone, so anyone could share. This would allow to reconstruct some state in much smaller scale. They take time. So I can deploy 15K fake nodes and all the like Cilium nodes, endpoints from the specific test case. Like and like okay, so why not like create? So maybe you might have a question like why not create like a shell script where I just create Cilium nodes and other resources like that. So what I experienced because I already tried it, is that the Cilium and Kubernetes are very complicated, very complex, and the dependencies between the resources in the agent and operator, when it processes it, they are not that obvious. Like you can create 15K Cilium nodes, and it's going to process them in like 30 seconds, maybe, very quickly. But when there is like a very, very specific conditions, and really for the whole experience, it can take 8 minutes, right? So it's not that simple to just write a test case and come up with those bottlenecks. So that's kind of where I come from. Like, okay, either you need to know really well the agent or operate or Cilium, and maybe also Kubernetes, and then you are able to like write those tests. Or maybe we could come up with some tooling, some better tools for the developers that they could, I don't know, like for example, get the state, capture the state, either like a final state or maybe the sequence that came to the state, and then we can replay the sequence of events, or we could just apply those final resources. And the idea is that because we found many issues that are very easily reproducible in our tests, like we constantly run those large-scale tests, and we constantly were hitting those problems. So if we could like share with community, with all of you, like, okay, so we hit this issue, this is how we reproduce, and we don't require from you like, okay, so now scale 50K and test it. So this is kind of like my idea that I had when working with this test. I really wish to have like, first of all, a simpler way to like write this test, because it's also not that easy. Like if you work with CL2 as the loader, really know it's not that easy to write a test case and then like figure everything works. And the other is that also like a framework, like I don't know, I can write a simple Go with for example so this is kind of the rough idea of what I'm working on, experimenting with. I'm also interested like in your feedback. I know that there are some synthetic tests, some benchmarks already in Cilium. They're fine, but again, as I said, you really need to know, you need to understand the failure point, like what is causing it, and to write those tests and maintain them. So yeah, I'm just curious, like, what are your thoughts on it? Does it make sense? Does it make sense?
Am I right that there is some scalability test for the entity itself? Something that's next. There's so we pretty much the similar idea. We are faking the state, loading into the etcd, applying that to the cluster flash state, and at the same. Is there?
I do remember myself doing exactly that style. Like just send 2 nodes and then like however many big nodes.
In my opinion, is really valuable to have that.
I think the stuff where like you don't have Google.
Trust me, the Google phase of, I mean, it's like like these runs.
Like one thing do you, because technically it will also just run test, but I guess you want to be really sure that it's the actual.
Yeah, it's hard to reconstruct the interaction. And I think that's one of the difficult. That's why like people go to the actual test. It's like, oh, I ran it at 15K for sure. Like,
I could even imagine like maybe you're a bit more manual and doing all sorts of interesting things. There's a more like a very user kind of level on this side, and you don't necessarily know that the data is going to have record what you did. You find like, oh, I experienced this weird condition when I did added these objects,
But like in the reconstruction, you fail every node, but you just want to test on the worker node what the behavior is. Okay.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So let's say we have, for example, GK, right, and the control plane. Okay, then you can just turn off the operate like that. So you need to use something like fork, which is Kubernetes without kubelet, and it's basically like marks the health checks for the nodes, for the pods and stuff like this. So it doesn't delete, for example, when you just have the nodes up to some point, operator garbage collect them. So you need something like that. So the idea is to like not like in my mind like perfect scenario is that okay, I as a user can use this tool to like record if something is reproducible constantly, and it's not like the race condition, something we can the race condition repeated that usually not that simple, and I don't think this would help with it. But
So like testing Cilium is actually on the two and just simulate the rest of the things to like.
yes. So they work like so I would have the Cilium fake Cilium pods in those fake nodes.
Yeah.
They just
Yeah.
don't really exist. Just in the API. But yeah, the idea is that okay, I have 2 nodes or 1 node, 10 nodes, and I just for example, restart those nodes and see if I can see, for example, the start of issues the same that I had. Without, for example, and for example, I also let me make like the Cube API like overloading, right? So, okay, with 2 nodes, Cube API is probably has enough capacity to like support that. So I just don't care about anything. And then also the setup is a bit easier. Like I don't like when running those tests, I just need the kind. It's quite easy to set up the kind cluster. So then yeah, I can just add the additional command, like, load this test artifacts, and have the old.
So this actually like applies those artifacts to the Cube API.
Yeah, exactly. So the way I designed this tool is that first, so there's the CLI and operator. You can deploy operator to the cluster or the community structure that watches the Cube API and all the changes of the chosen results. It saves it in like in my case like Google Store, but you can locally or S3 AWS or somewhere. Then you can get them, like compile those resources, and you can like specify, okay, for example, I am interested to, because, okay, you have metrics, but metrics don't really show the whole story. It's, especially at scale, it's like, it gives you maybe the idea what's going on, but you don't really know what's going on. And then you can look at the logs. There's like millions of logs. And it's impossible. It's really hard. So what I want with this tool is, okay, I see some logs that there was a failure. So I can use this tool and use, it works like kubectl. It just adds like the add time. So I can kubectl get this resource at this time, and I see exactly what was happening there. And also I can see like all the changes for the like how frequently change, like that. So this is like my idea for this tool. It's very simple, like nothing complicated. And this is kind of my goal. Like I want to create the tools that are very easy to use, that are not complicated for scale test, because I think current tooling, they are extremely complex, very hard, and working with them for anyone is not nice. And I would like try to bring similar research. I don't know how it works.
Can you tell how experience from your test, how basic should those what your flavor usually is when you try to apply a object to the API
If you're doing it in kind, it's mostly your
on your laptop? Yeah.
Right. Probably not laptop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was testing with GKE, and the cool thing is that what you can do is, let's say we can record those 15K tests, and then we can run in parallel a couple of tests with different instance types. So we can see, for example, okay, does the increase in the instance type? And I don't need to run 15K tests to test it again. So it's kind of like, yeah, so we can't, this is another problem. We can't create like a matrix for 15K tests for different instance types. Like impossible, but maybe with it, we can tell, okay, Cilium works at this scale, this instance type fine, and or agents work. It's another benefit of it.
Yeah, it should be very cool. Just
Yeah, but as I said,
This would be even cheaper than our current kit. Right?
Exactly.
We have like
Yes.
100 node, maybe. I think that's what I found in GitHub workload. But this is
So
this works well.
When's the demo?
right. But like if it's reflective of the real environment, then I feel like it could do better scale.
Yeah.
Reduce space.
Yeah, because scale is also like many different, right?
Yeah.
The posture is another big that you're talking about. The number of nodes, number of pods, like you get like running those tests.
Policies,
Exactly.
need labels,
And then changes in those things, right? And turning all of those resources. It's like if we could like record those things, one like okay, we need to run still the thing, then maybe we don't need to run them that often, and then we can like I don't know every like version.
Yeah.
One second.
and even if it takes a bit longer, you just say this is the kind of playback. And you run that in your environment, you say, how long does it take to reconcile or to get into a good state, right?
Yep.
Then like just that length of time is now a metric. You say, oh, there was a regression at this time because
Right.
like that test that used to take 30 minutes now takes 50 minutes. So
When can we see the demo?
I mean,
same question.
So for now, what I'm doing is we have a couple of issues, couple of scenarios that that are in the test we were always reproducible. Like for example, Cilium nodes versus Cilium nodes in GKE. So we constantly hit like the startup SLOs limits. And there is like for example also linked with Cilium endpoint sizes. So what I'm doing now, I'm testing my tool. So to see if I see the same like issues in this fake environments. So once I'm figure out if this tool actually helps with it, and it actually can reproduce those issues. Because for example, with Cilium nodes, we found the issue, and we actually like had a fix for it already. We are open. The processing Cilium nodes was very time consuming on the startup, and it even took like 8 minutes to start, which was not enough, and the Cilium agent was killed before it could finish it. So
Is that one that's regarding?
no, this one comes with so yeah, I was helping him debugging it, but debugging it was like really time consuming, very hard, because we basically had to add logs, deploy everything to the GKE, and then run those tests. They fail again and again, or they pass, but we have not enough logs for it, so we need to add deeper logs. So this is kind of the where this idea comes from. We don't really want to like
and run Cilium in debug mode with 15K nodes.
yeah, it doesn't work. You can't do this. At 5K you can do this. It just doesn't work. So yeah,
It could be also quite useful for clusters. I think you just have to replay 2 clusters at the same time or something. And
Yeah, I think generally this is, I've been pushing to like basically get these reductions in scale tests. It's just like running it at a giant scale. Feels like we're never going to end. Like,
You have to fight with AI.
yes.
yeah, but okay, yeah, I'll try to like come up with yeah, so yeah, the goals, right? I already explained it. So what I think the next months, like this is kind of like my side project for now, but we'll see how it goes. But I guess like what I am particularly interested in, like how can I, support the open source Cilium. This is one of my ideas, but maybe there are others. Like how can we like make those tests more maintainable? Feedback loops faster, because I think one of the problems is those problems like with scalability, they often are not that hard to fix. It's just a matter of like finding them, debugging them, like okay, what's actually causing those bottlenecks, and then verifying the fix. Okay, so in OSS, it's for our scale, it's usually not
And
possible.
then regression. I think the other one is big one is regression. It's like very hard to figure. Oh, we regress.
I think it's like very common to see that being like there's one person whose job it is to figure out all this stuff.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if we can democratize it a bit more and say like even if I'm writing a new feature, I'm like I think there might be a scale implication.
Yes.
I don't really want to be the person to introduce the regression, right? But if I can get data like this, it's nice.
Yeah, we could try to not CI/CD probably some of this integration, which is I think huge. Catching it the regressions like before PR merge, because right now it looks like it's already like very late in the process. Like usually when we already have deployed the version, GKE version, then we test it. The scale test probably others as well. So yeah, that's like huge for us. And
Cool. Well,
and like one rabbit hole comment that if like a user comes up with an issue and say, hey, I see that Cilium agent having too much memory or whatever, could you just like somehow integrate that into student treatment and say, oh, we have a producer right now and see what happens? Is that safe even?
It gets a little more complicated for sure.
yeah, it's probably if we're gonna like share those information, probably we have to add some logic for changing the service names and stuff.
Like anonymization,
Correct?
anonymization.
Yeah, like where we're at right now, so the open source project is like we provide a tool that will allow you to capture a dump of the current snapshot of the system, plus maybe like a couple of minutes of loads And if you want to give that to somebody, that's 100% your responsibility to figure out what you're comfortable hearing.
Right.
And like, I haven't loved the idea of trying to implement something better in the open source. 'Cause it's like, if we tell you just run this extra flag that will hide all the important information and it doesn't do enough hiding for you, then like, you're going to,
Yeah.
it puts us in a weird position
Yeah.
because it's like, it should be your responsibility to figure out what you're comfortable with sharing.
Right.
And
I mean, I guess for now it's just like probably gonna be like just for the testing purposes and just for like.
if the tool is available for anybody who can record, if they can download that and run them in their own, that would be kind of neat. I'm not saying it's required, like obviously just the reading results and then replaying is good. But if you can record, some people might want to record. I don't know who exactly yet. Maybe they should put it.
Yeah, I think
like,
I mean,
it's just like an
it seems
operator
to me
runs
like
in the cluster.
the whole suite just makes sense.
Because like if we run it on an arbitrary cursor, do you think there would be security implication other than not anonymizing data? Like, can it run there and
I mean,
say,
probably
run
it's-
this malware and I run it and I run
Still put an LLM in there. I don't know. Like probably you'd have to finish the.
And it's like
We have discussed it.
our
Yeah.
Yeah, so I tried like to, for example, IBHC, like make it as minimal as possible. So I made a helm chart that you specify like which resources you want to watch and it only make the release.
Like a read session.
Yeah, so
be safe.
ish.
No, we can document what it is and like people who
Yeah.
avoid it.
It's probably not something you want to run on production, just, you know, capture it like, I don't know, maybe in the future, but it's probably
Yeah.
way before you're gonna like just run it, like then optimization we make and so on for that. But yeah, basically it's like you have like database with load base, right? And it's
Yes. I am just asking silly question. The base thing is already super useful, I think.
Cool. Any?
You got people so excited they want to
Yeah.
they want to have the fifth version already.
That's cool. That's it. Well, thank you for presenting. So, next up is probably demo. Cool. Super excited for this. And Joe, I think you have.
Is there some link for this?
It's only using my laptop for now. Yeah, it probably will take some time before if we open source it, but yeah, I'll do demo. I'll show like the issues we managed to reproduce with it, or if we did not, maybe it's gonna be like it's useless this approach or something. But then I also mention that I think it's made some research.
And even just like the general, like when you explained it as code replay, okay, that.
Yeah, it would be good to know, like, if it doesn't work, like why, and future reference. Right. Did you get it?
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know if it's still worthwhile to dig through data pages. But
Well, let's just do it, and then
let's
we're done.
drop.
Like just leave it or
So if you're gonna leave, just go down to the.
okay.
Yes. Take your shower. Yeah, I can walk you out. Don't go up and hide
Yeah.
up there and have security. They'll walk you out later.
Oh,
Yeah.
Peace.
Yeah, see it coming.
Okay, so I gripped your beta in the tree the other day. Here's everything that turned out. So broadly, I guess, as a project, we should probably think about what we want to spend our time and effort on maybe better and what we want to retire. And I think particularly historically, we've tried a bunch of things. Maybe we added those things into code. And sometimes worked out really well. Users adopted it. We got great feedback, and managed to productionize the features. Sometimes the features we added, and for whatever reason, sort of either nobody used it or we just never got on the path to productionizing it.
Right.
So from the perspective of just like how do we reduce the maintenance burden for the project, it's like worth kind of do it. So I kind of just thought of a few categories here, like, well, first, like, okay, yeah, what's the feature name? Like, which area of the code base is it kind of focused on? Is there like a particular goal in the project overall that we're trying to achieve with that feature? How well do we think it's used in the community? And then, like, what kind of like maintenance burden do we feel it's actually imposing on us? It's like if it's.
I have to say, Cilium endpoint slice is used. You count all of GKE in Azure.
Yeah. I think initially I was like, I might put something significantly on.
Yeah. Because I think Azure's also using. I know all of GKE.
I figured like anything that like for the clouds, for the scale and stuff. It's
Like that one. I think very significant.
I think it's been a recurring discussion in the scalability for. There's now like there's just one thing left we want to fix before we mark it as not beta, but I haven't followed super.
Yeah, like maybe that is useful for SIG scalability to just finally nail down. Because I know that there were some nits, and then I was commenting on some stuff. It was just like it truly like you don't need to fix it. Like
I think one of the concerns we had is like if you have two features which are both like GA and they don't work together. It's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah, then maybe it was like egress.
Yes,
Egress gateway or something.
But there is a PR.
Okay,
cool. Open like 2 weeks.
Yes.
Okay.
Was it egress gateway?
Yes.
So yeah, so some of those like I mean, and I don't know if I've got old categories here, but that one seems like it's just worth pushing.
Right.
Maybe that's the category. I don't think.
Yeah, we should label it just like, hey, things like give it soon. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if the folks in this room necessarily can speak to most of these. But if there is an item in this list that you want to discuss, discuss that.
Why does the BPF protein does not work?
I ran out of time and I was thinking on the future 3 years ago. Like where that got to was, yeah, I mean, like effectively, I kind of ran out of time to work on it, but like there was, we came up with permutations testing for different data paths through the proxy, through the BPF through the proxy. This was like right before this, we created the Cilium CLI, the CLI connectivity tests. We had some like deployment, it was just like a YAML thing. Deploy a bunch of pods that talk to one another in different ways. Configure a bunch of network policies that go through different pods. There's one or two of those that didn't always work depending on which node they were on, and maybe I remember EKS having some weird behavior that failed. They just didn't end up chasing down all of those bugs, and there just hasn't been that much user demand.
And what do you use T-proxy for?
I mean, if we want to have like the working endpoint on the nodes, that's set this mesh.
Okay, so
where
mesh.
we- Yeah.
Okay.
So anything involving getting packets into Envoy or with a service mesh, gateway API stuff, or network policy of L7, all that goes through a version of T-proxy. This one is taking it out of IP tables rules and putting it into BPF.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So it's just like slightly different implementation. We just haven't chased down. I think one of the latest ones was like NetKit. For some reason with NetKit, it's incompatible. there's some kernel patch that needs to be done. Alistair from our team was digging into that for a while, but I think he hit a bit of a wall.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to understand what's actually happening. It's just, you know, the request just times out, and I don't know why. You know, I tried packet, where are you?
Oh, you did?
You tried to, yeah, to speed up, and it just like gets lost somewhere, you know.
At one point I did have some idea about like a testing tool we can try to create to like validate some portion of that. So I think what we need is better tools to be able to reproduce the files. It's always on my like, I mean, the NetFilter free project and altogether is like,
Sometimes it would help so much if packet, where are you was possible to use on XD. As far as I know, it works.
obviously, yeah. Because like, let's say you want to use packet where you want to go filter by this IP address, it's probably like filter or something. So like at XDP, there's no, like the kernel hasn't extracted that context at all.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. It's an interesting point. But I think for that one also, like it's kind of an extra relatively small code path. I don't think it's actually causing much maintenance at the moment, so we just not out said.
So I think probably it would be useful to go over this in the community.
Yeah, we could do that.
Probably get, well, I mean, like, there's only like a few
Yeah.
people here.
That's why, like, I can't
Finally
with
join the community.
That's
Yeah.
Wednesday.
yeah, welcome as well.
Yeah.
Also scroll down. What's the ones that are
Can this be on community meeting on Wednesday, let's say 10 a.m. CST,
so when
Central European time? It's not.
yeah, I mean the majority of people who work on Cilium are probably either US somewhere, Europe. There's quite a few people on the West Coast. That usually means kind of 5 p.m.
Yeah.
I think maybe at the moment the time zone has shifted such that it's 4 p.m. Was it 4 p.m. for you, or is it?
It's normally 4 p.m., but not earlier. It's to be 5.
So like next week it will be at
Next
4
week's
p.m.
a
on
good
Wednesday.
week to
I think.
try.
That
Yeah.
week,
Unless that's when daylight saving starts in the EU. I'm not quite sure. But like that's about to start, right? Back to my yeah, I mean, what do you get down here? But I mean, yeah, I mean, if you have input on any particular ones of these, then like, I'd happy to take this on now as well later.
Yeah, I'm curious about that kit. Are you guys using that on GP? Not yet.
No. I think it's still experimental. Yeah. I'm assuming it's not gonna be like.
A lot of reasons why that's a good future direction. I think there's a column there I'm missing somewhere about, but maybe it's partly like the project goal. Like I mean, I see it as mainly a performance thing, and I think it does a bunch of cool new stuff. I think it's very much aligned with what the project created. So I think NetKit by itself has a bunch of adoption in big companies, but not necessarily in context of Cilium.
Yeah.
I think maybe 1 or 2 are, but
Yeah, I don't know when we're gonna flip it on. But I'm just gonna assume after some maturity level. Maybe it's like 50% kernels.
yeah. So maybe arguably the question for this is like, how soon and what is our actual like? I mean, we want to make a GA first, and then yes, I don't know if this is on great consideration. Yeah, I don't know if you had a chance to try it.
I mean, I did not only like manually try to that for example box. We have not deployed that.
Well, let's just know if you are with the game feedback.
I know there was some like big hype around that last year, year before.
Yeah, I guess in CS we should probably pull it off your side at some point and see. Well, maybe Marco has some. I imagine that's something we also want to just graduate at some point.
There might be some changes coming for LCS. Actually, a cucumber decision.
Well, actually, it's a good point. Yeah, maybe it's partly subject.
Yeah, so anyways, it's like I would just watch the. Okay, I think, thank you, everyone who's still here for coming. So always happy to help host.
Yeah, thanks very much for your listening. And, thanks everyone for coming.
It's
Thanks,
all for the call. Yeah.